Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about how to become a travel photographer and get paid. My name is Sam. I'm a professional photographer with 12 years experience in the industry, and I teach you business and the things nobody talks about so you can succeed and build your own. Becoming a travel photographer. I do not know a single photographer in this world who did not start by saying that I want to be a National Geographic photographer, me included. This is the dream. This is what everyone thinks they want to do when they get into photography. So before we talk about what it actually takes to become a travel photographer, I want to break down the difference between being a travel photographer and being a traveling photographer. Bear with me. I'm going to break down the difference. A traveling photographer is someone like me, somebody who is a traveler and is also a photographer. You could be doing work at home and also be traveling. You could be bringing work with you whenever you go. You could be finding clients where you're going. You could be taking the work with you, or you could be working at home and then traveling after. Now, a travel photographer is a photographer whose niche is travel. So imagine a wedding photographer, an event photographer, a commercial photographer, a fashion photographer, or a travel photographer. The difference is a travel photographer is somebody who photographs travel itself. If you're interested in becoming a traveling photographer, you can check out my other video about how to get paid as a traveling photographer, and it's going to give you a lot of insight into what it takes to be paid as a traveling photographer. If you want to become a travel photographer, then you're in the right video. I'm going to walk you through the steps. So if you want to be a travel photographer, that means your niche is travel. That means you should travel, you should landscape, you should cities, you should destination, you should culture. So if that's who you are, then the very first thing you need to think about is, as always, who is your niche? Who is your client? Where can you find them? How can you work for them? What service do you provide for them? So if you're a travel photographer, who is your client? Probably tourism boards, travel companies, tour providers, retreats, credit cards, hotels, airlines, you name it. Anyone who is in the travel industry could be a potential client. The next thing you want to think about is, what service can you provide for them? Where can you find this client? And how can you create the work for them to want to hire you? So it is always about having the right kind of portfolio to attract the right kind of client. If you want to be working with tourism boards, the best thing you could be doing right now is going on your own trip and creating your own photos. Same with travel companies or credit cards or airlines. These are big clients. There's a likelihood that they're not just hiring a freelancer who's going to drop in on their email. Now, this might seem a bit of a difficult route to go, so I have another few options for you to start your career as a travel photographer. One of the best ways to get started is actually aiming at photography stock banks. If you want to go the stock market route, you really want to do the research and find out what kind of images they are looking to buy, what kind of niches they're looking to fill, and what kind of work they want you to create. It is important to understand that if you are creating photos for stock banks, you are going to need model release sports. This is going to change the way you travel. This is not about grabbing your camera, going out and about, shooting beautiful images, and then hoping that something sticks. You're gonna have to hire a fixer, you're gonna have to book locations, you're gonna have to pay models, you're gonna have to sign contracts, and you're gonna need to be creating the kind of work that these companies can pitch to potential clients to sell. I met a travel photographer once in Sri Lanka, and I was fascinated by his story. He told me he traveled the world creating all of these images in exactly this way that I described to you. And one time, one of his photos ended up in the cover of a Lonely Planet magazine. So that goes to show that sometimes you don't need to work directly with a company that you want to work for, but having that in between of a stock agency or a marketing agency is going to connect you with the companies that you want to work for. Another way to work as a travel photographer is actually shooting what you love in beautiful places and destinations and selling your work as fine art prints. I will say I find this a very, very scary market, and it is quite difficult to find and place your images and to sell your work, but it can be done. So if you are somebody who would rather travel the world and experience it in your own way, find the kind of work that you love. And again, you have to find a niche. Are you a nature photographer? Are you a mountain specific photographer? Are you a street photographer? and really dedicate your work and your craft to creating a specific type of work. So you can be recognized for a body of work that could be maybe displayed in a gallery, that can be sold in stores, and it could be maybe a print shop. I will be perfectly honest with you. I am a traveling photographer, not a travel photographer. So for me, I am only speaking of what I know, what I read, what I've seen, and not from my own personal experience. I found that it was a lot better for me to be a traveling photographer, to work directly with a client, and to have the freedom to travel or to bring clients with me and do the work abroad than it was to focus my photography on travel. When I was traveling and capturing images on the streets, I found that I just really wanted to capture the essence of a place, and I didn't want to approach people and ask them to sign a model release form. I didn't want to hire models. I didn't want to wake up at 5 a.m. specifically to go shoot in a place before people were there. I actually wanted to enjoy my travel as an experience, and I didn't want that to be the job. So it really depends what kind of experience you want out of your travels, but if you want to focus on travel and you want that to be the work that you do, that is the way to do it. You're waking up early, you're setting up shoots, and you're really transforming your trip around the work itself. Last but not least, I cannot mention Instagram. I know a lot of you are at home thinking that if you want to be a travel photographer, the answer is to create an online platform and to grow it and to get a following, and then you can be a travel photographer. This is a bit of a myth. This is a yes and a no. There is a place and a time for that kind of work, but it is mostly advertising work and not necessarily always photography work. I have a lot of friends who are influencers and get paid to travel and promote places, work with tourism boards, and of course they get to do photos and videos for where they go, but actually they're getting hired for their reach. They're getting hired for their audience, and they're getting hired to be advertisers. They are basically being paid to promote a place with their persona. There is some times where they are getting paid to also produce work and deliver, but it is not often the case. If that's the route you want to go, it is an exciting world and it can be a lot of fun, but it is a completely different approach. And that means you need to be focusing on growing your channel. You need to be focusing on engagement. You need to be focused on growing an Instagram account. And honestly, guys, that has nothing to do with photography. Yes, I know it's a photo platform, but nowadays it's more of a video platform and a Reels platform. And it means creating content that will go viral, creating content that favors the algorithm. And that's not always aligned with creating content that is photographically pleasing or that represents your work or that aligns with you as a photographer. So there's nothing wrong with doing this and going this route, but it is a completely different line of work. And I would say that you're more of a marketer rather than a photographer. Hope you liked this video and I help you understand the difference between being a travel photographer and a traveling photographer and gave you a little bit of an insight on what it takes to actually travel and do photography as a job. If you're curious to learn more about being a traveling photographer, you can check out my other video and I go into detail about jobs that I've done while abroad and how I created opportunities for myself while traveling. Nice to see you guys again. If you have any questions, I'll be answering on the comments and I'll see you next time.